All right, and one more thing that we want to talk about today, and that's the U.S. sweltering under record-breaking temperatures this weekend. 85 million Americans faced extreme weather warnings. Missouri, Oklahoma among the states that will continue to see 100-plus Fahrenheit days this week. New York is forecast to have a slightly cooler. We're supposed to get a cold front today. But we talked about it happening in Europe as well, now here in the United States. And, you know, skeptics, I guess, will say, oh, gee, it's summer, it's hot. But we have seen a higher frequency of these high temperature days as we got into the 2000s and now, of course, here in 2022 because we are seeing climate change. So the question is, what ripple effects is it going to continue to have in the world of business and policy, et cetera?
Well, one of the most obvious is what you might see with corn, wheat, all those commodities prices. There are starting to be some real concerns about how harvest might play out, not just here in the U.S., but in Europe as well. And you could very easily see some prices shooting higher for wheat, corn, you name it.
Right. And you talk about the pricing environment that is already high that consumers are navigating through, especially when it comes to the produce aisle and the supermarket. And there are already, people who are going out for those eggs, like Sozzi.
The Fed can't fight the heat. The Fed can't fight the heat. Rate hikes are not going to save corn prices that are dealing with potentially weak harvest because of 100-degree plus temperatures.
Right.
I'm sorry, Jay Powell.
So a couple of different things happen. You get a shift of the zones, of agricultural zones, right, for various crops. You also get companies like Bayer and ADM that are now, with all of their various engineered seeds, are they going to build in more heat resistance to some of these products as time goes on? So these are all things that we have to watch. When we're talking about grains and we're talking about prices, we also have to talk about the latest in Ukraine. Remember last week we were talking about an agreement between Ukraine, Russia, and the UN to potentially get grain exports out more readily. Well, then over the weekend you had Russia bombing Odessa, which is the main port on the Black Sea, throwing into question that agreement. So meaning potentially continued pressure on some of these prices.
Yeah, and the continued pressure on the prices, especially as we're kind of navigating the broader capacity and output that is trying to be negotiated to a certain extent. But right now, even as we were discussing earlier with our guest, just about where those deals are being made and who's actually putting the output out there and who's buying energy from Russia still to this point in time, China largely, and then Russia still waiting on that part of the pipeline to be able to turn back on capacity for other parts of Europe. And Europe is going to continue to get hit over this near-term interim period.
Maybe the heat wave was this summer's black swan event. I can't believe that weather like this has been factored into stock prices.
Well, but why would it be? I mean,
not yet. We're already dealing with high levels of inflation. If harvests don't get harvested like they were supposed to, maybe that's another level in food prices that the market is not.
Yeah, I haven't seen dramatic changes though to crop forecasts and things like that. So that's something that we have to dig into. One more thing when we're talking about Ukraine and Russia and that whole dynamic there is we did have a bit of breaking news, which is that Nord Stream 2 pipeline that we were talking about earlier that carries natural gas from Russia to Europe and which just came back up to 40% capacity after it was repaired. Now Gazprom, the operator, says it's going to go down to 20% of capacity as of July 27th. So that was something that had been speculated upon, but we're seeing natural gas prices up again today. This is largely a regional phenomenon, but still you do get somewhat of a ripple
I think
effect.
It fits nicely what the Goldman's Samantha Dart told us, that it's still a bullish setup for many commodities and notably natural gas.
Absolutely.